There are good innovation, but there are also bad innovation. If someone from the businesses, they think they can have certain kind of innovations to save the cost. But what if it harms your customers' experiences? Innovation is not only something from bottom up. The first person responsible for innovation is the CEO. Once the company have a new KPI, I observe many of the middle management team, they will argue with their boss. But in Alibaba, no. Once the KPI is done, you have no room to argue.
Really? Chào mừng quay trở lại với People Matter mùa 4 để khám phá bí quyết các doanh nghiệp đánh thức văn hóa đổi mới sáng tạo, bứt phá năng lực thực thi và lắng nghe những câu chuyện đa chiều của các chuyên gia và lãnh đạo của các doanh nghiệp trong nước và quốc tế. Và mình là Minh Giang, là host của chương trình. And today we will be discussing about the topic leveraging the global leadership for enterprise innovation. And it is my great honor to welcome and have a conversation with my friend. So Chandee, so he's an expert with over a decade of leadership experience at Alibaba Group since 2010, spanning marketing, customer operation, government affairs, and the Alibaba Academy's committee. As the co-founder of Alibaba Global Initiative, so he has played a critical role in expanding the company's global footprint, driving cross-border e-commerce, and advancing the digital economy. So thank you so much, Chandee, for spending time and joining us.
Yeah, this is really my honor to be here. Thank you for inviting me. So I think it's a pleasure for me to have these opportunities to share some of my point of view with you, with Vietnamese entrepreneurs.
Yeah, and firstly, congratulations. So I just read the article that Alibaba so being one of the top 10 the most influential AI company in the world, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So
yes.
Yeah. So congratulations. So
Thank you.
Yeah. So in that context, so especially given the current situation, there is a lot of change so fast. So how do you define an innovation culture, and how you keep this culture being alive and existent?
Mm-hmm. I think that is a very good question. Many companies, they will talk about innovation. And they will talk about innovation culture, but in the end, it is very hard for them to execute. For Alibaba, I think we also talk about innovation, but I can share something from as an insider. I think it is very, very important. First of all, it is very, very important to give a very clear definition of what is innovation, right? Yeah. Innovation is not something, it's not just do something new, right? I think innovation, there are good innovation, but there are also bad innovation.
Oh.
Yeah, you can understand what do I mean. For example, if someone from the financial department, or if someone from the businesses, certain businesses, they think they can have certain kind of innovations to save the cost. Do you think it is good or bad for the company?
Mostly they consider that is the good intention, good innovation, right? Yeah.
Yeah, but what if it harms your customers' experiences? So I think, talking about innovation, first of all, we need to give a very clear definition of what is innovation and what is good innovation for a company. I think innovation is not only something from bottom up. We need to integrate this kind of innovation mindset into our strategy formulation. So in Alibaba, I think when we talk about innovation, actually this is kind of the top-down plus bottom-up, integrated together. First of all, we need to be very, very clear that I think how we should formulate our strategy based on the customers, based on the customer value. And this is very important in Alibaba in formulating our strategy. Strategy is not about making money. The starting point of a business strategy should be from the customer value. So this is something we need to be very certain. Yeah, we need to make everyone on the same picture. That is something that everyone in this company should pursue, right? Should pursue after. And of course, based on that, there are different kind of approaches. We can do some innovations on our approaches, but we cannot do innovations on, change the customer values. Yeah, this is the first one. And the second, I think, when we are talking about innovations, most of the companies, as I observed, they stopped there talking about innovation. Yeah, we need to do innovation, like, innovation is good, so we need to kind of create certain kind of the culture to tolerate innovation, to tolerate making mistakes. That's all right. There's nothing wrong. But in Alibaba, we are very, I think, in our experiences, we are very much care about how we should come out with a mechanism to implement this kind of innovation as a whole organization, but not something just talking in a senior leader team, senior management team. I will just give an example. I think in the early stage of Alibaba's development, like in Taobao, at that time, I think you might understand, Taobao was still we're competing with eBay in the very early beginning. And after our strategic meeting, every senior leaders, they agree that we need to, encourage innovation in our companies. The next question is how. And before how, and we all agree to discuss about, we need to be very clear what is innovation. And after discussion, we come to a conclusion that there are two kinds of innovations in the world. Maybe one is very tremendously huge innovation, like iPhone.
Yeah.
It can change the world overnight.
Change the world. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. But there will be very, very few such kind of innovations in the world.
Like that. Yeah, exactly.
Yes.
Yes.
And we all agree that most of the innovations are very small. They're based on your improvement. And there are most likely, there are very, very small improvements come together, right? And we can come out as we can have a huge innovations as a whole organization.
Yeah, continuous improvement, right?
So we raise this question. When we have the clear definition, it means that we have a very clear questions or problems that we can solve. Otherwise, it will become very vague for us to provide any kind of the solutions for that. So the question becomes how we can initiate such kind of the improvement, small improvement in the whole organization.
Yeah.
And we come out with an idea that, first of all, I think every company currently still we have the habit of doing of writing the weekly report, right? Usually the weekly report is about what did I do last week, and what is my plan next week, something like that. But most of the company they end here. But we come out with an idea that in our weekly report, everyone should add one more section that you need to provide 3 ideas based on your own job. This is very important, based on your own job, because we don't want our employees to
Abilities.
empty talking, and blame others.
Okay, got it.
Blaming others is very easy, but to improve your own job, you need to take care of yourself, of your job, right? Yeah. So everyone submit 3 items, and in the group level, in the team level, every week we will have a discussion that which 3 items out of the team are considered as the most important items
To
should
improve.
improve next.
Okay.
Yeah, to improve next week.
That's great.
Yeah, and the team level we will also submit to the business unit level, and then to the group level, to the company level. So, like, every week we will have several, maybe no more than 3 items that we need to put our resources to do that improvement. So, which means that we do our improvement every week based on week. But that is in early time. Currently, we need to do that, daily, because we are now in the AI age. I think in this way it becomes a mechanism rather than just empty talking about innovation, right?
So we create the space and like a really mechanism for the people to practice the innovation instead of just like streaming or shouting about hey let's innovate, right?
Yeah, you don't need to talk about let's innovate, but this is your ordinary job every week.
So I got from your sharing, Chandee. So there are 2 types of like innovation. So one is we call like a essential or like a tremendous, like a huge innovation, like an iPhone. We make something like we innovate something like from 0 to 1. Okay, but there is another the other type of innovation here is about so continuous improvement. And like you just share as early stage at Alibaba Group, so you also design and launch the mechanism for the people to innovate. It's just very very a simple action.
Very
So like
simple
every
action.
week, look at on your job, look at on your current project, current your accountability, list down 3 things that you can innovate, right? And that's one thing. And the second thing is that you share is that the innovation should align with the business strategy, especially should align with the customer values, rather than trying to cut costs or and that maybe that impact to the customer experience. So it's so easy to say, like you just said, it's so easy to say about the innovation, but it's so hard to cascade out and keep it as the part of DNA of any organization, right?
Yes.
And like you share, even we should not like a bottom up, but should the innovation should be the role model, should be the as role model from the top down. So
Yes.
in your experience at Alibaba Group, so with more than 102,000 or 200,000 employees. So beside the mechanism, so anything that you can see that you guys have done really a good job and very and these the action really critical to make it to make innovation being alive and being existent and being the culture, being the norms at Alibaba.
Yes. That is a very good question. I think from the individual perspective, that everyone has their own approaches to do the innovation, but from the company's level, I think you cannot just come out with an idea and turn the whole companies into the innovation model. But this is very important to instill or plant a seed into every the employees, and you want to turn their behavior models from just carry on the plans to a self-driven innovation model. So this is something I think is very important related to the values and culture. I think you need to create certain kind of the culture that encourage innovation, but not only encourage innovation, but require them to do the innovation, right? So talking about this culture, I would raise a question: where do you think the culture comes from?
Leadership team.
Leadership team, yes, leadership team. But and from my perspective, I think the culture. So everyone understand what is culture. Culture is how we behave and how we talk, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
In a company. But this kind of the model cannot be made by certain kind of the decisions or certain kind of the policies. It must come from the mission of this company and the value of this company. The mission is the fundamental cornerstone, and the value is kind of the you can understand as the criterias of the behaviors in this company. So I think in Alibaba, value plays most important in instilling the innovation culture into every employees. For example, we all know that Alibaba have 6 kind of the values, corporate values, and each value they're actually interconnected with each other and support each other. For example, the first the corporate values in Alibaba, the company level is customer first, employee second, and shareholder third. Now, this is the criteria when we have certain kind of the conflicts in making decision. Always put customer first. So that is the cornerstone for us to make the right decision, to make sure that we do not do any kind of innovation that harm our customers' experiences, right? So this is the first one. And the second is about, create changes. One of Alibaba's value is we say change is the only constant, right? And we have several different kinds of the criteria for this value. And the highest one is that you should not adapt yourself to any of the changes in the environment outside, but also you need to create some changes. Create some changes. Of course, the good changes to lead the trend. Right. This is the highest requirement for this value. And we also have a value we say today's best performance is tomorrow's baseline. So I think all this value together is the cornerstone, is the seeds that to encourage our employees to do the innovation. And what's more important, it is not like in any other of the companies that in Alibaba, value needs to be assessed every quarter. In the very beginning, every quarter, and later every half a year or every year. So in our performance system, the business performance take half, and the value performance take another half. So, for example, if your business performance is very good, for example, outstanding, considered outstanding, but your value performance is really bad, you will also be considered not someone that we need. And also, this kind of the performance system will affect everyone's income, everyone's salary, and bonus and everything. So that's why and every time when you are doing such kind of the performance review, you need to give very detailed examples about how you implement such kind of values in your own job. For example, what kind of the job you have done in your daily work and in your OKR or KPI to embody such kind of the values or to reflect such kind of values. So in Alibaba, every individual employees, we are kind of pushed to do this kind of things, every quarter day by day.
Okay.
And yeah, so that's why, after 20 years of the operation, it will gradually become of our kind of the DNA to do the innovation. But of course, in order to do the innovation, I think setting KPI is also a piece of art. Sometimes you need to set a KPI that force people to
think out of the box, or to try new things, right?
To try new things.
Yeah.
You need to push them to leave their comfortable zone.
Okay.
And to have some innovation approaches.
Okay,
yes.
got it.
This is also very important.
Yeah.
Innovation means you have to change. You have to leave your comfortable zone, right? But this is something that everyone refuses, not only middle management team, but also, even the grassroots people. If you ask to do a lot of changes, they usually refuse to change.
So make it the innovation be in the norms, the culture, the way that you behave, and the way that you communicate at Alibaba, and that is the way that to keep in existence and to keep it alive. You just share even every quarter, so people will be assessed based on these value of the behaviors, and sometimes that we may need to set KPI and to ensure that everyone have to try the new behaviors to innovate. So many organizations realize that the real bottleneck to innovation is not at the top, but as a middle management. So who are directly accountable for KPI, and also they are they really they are the people who has a big influence to frontline team member. So at Alibaba, so can you share with us some insight, or what you have done so far to ensure that all these ideas or strategy really can reach out to this level, middle management?
Yeah, good question. Let me ask you a question first. What do you think is the reason that the middle management, they refuse to do any of the innovations?
I think, okay, so in my experience, and this is my my personal perspective, I think that they sometimes I consider middle manager the sandwich.
Mm-hmm.
The sandwich here, it means that okay, so they have the leadership team who also put a lot of KPI, and also they have a frontline team. Sometimes they also put the pressure back to them. So that's why that I think that they, for me, I think that they have a lot of pressure and a lot of things to handle. And yeah, because at the same time you need to manage the top, and you need to manage manage up and manage down. So and there are a lot of things that they are they are the people who execute directly. So that's why that I think that a lot of time there is a lot of priorities, there is a lot of things to handle. So I think this may be one of the reason why they reject, or they sometimes that they don't favor the innovation much.
Yeah, I agree. I think not only the middle management team, but everyone, as human beings, it's the human nature that everyone refuses to change. Innovation sometimes means change. Innovation means you have to change. You have to leave your comfortable zone, right? But this is something that everyone refuses, not only middle management team, but also, even the grassroots people. If you ask to do a lot of changes, they usually refuse to change. I think it is understandable. So I think in Alibaba, we have three kind of the ways the first of all, I think from the strategy level, strategy, in our view, if you want to carry out your strategy, or if you want to implement your strategy, strategy sometimes means you need to change. You need to choose or select a different kind of the way or opportunities. But most of the scenarios we observe that the strategy in many of the companies, they're just to come out of the boss's mind, right? The boss have an idea, and they just tell the middle management team just to do that. They don't explain why. So I think why in Alibaba we understand our understanding of this why is very, very important. The reason of change. You need to give people why they need to change. The reason of change is very important. So I think it is very important to involve those, many of the middle management team into the strategic discussion process. This is very important because only by doing this, it is possible for them to change their mindset. This is the reason I need to change. I'm not passively, accept or passively waiting for any of the orders from the senior management team that okay, this is your KPI. This is something you need to do. I think this is the first thing. You need to change the mindset. And second is, most of the people, they do not want to change because they have space for them to retrieve. They have the space for them to retrieve.
Safe, like a psychology safety, right?
Yeah, they have safe space for them to retrieve. So because they think if I don't change, it's okay, right? And so that's about how you need to set how do you set KPI. So most of the time, as I observe, once the company has won't have a new KPI, I observe many of the middle management team, they will argue with their boss.
Yeah.
Oh, no, this KPI. Yeah, no, this KPI is
too
impossible
much
for me.
That's too much.
Too much.
We cannot. I cannot do this. Yeah.
I cannot do this. I cannot do that. But in Alibaba, no. Once the KPI is done, you have no room to argue.
Really? Wow.
Because this is something that we discuss together. You are not someone who passively receive the orders from the top. Receive the KPI. But the strategy is something that everyone involved, everyone agree on that, right?
You mean one-on-one?
So you agree, not one-on-one. So, for example, let's say, if we have a strategic discussion, usually, every year in Alibaba, especially early times, that a strategy decision-making process will last for half a year, 3 months to half a year. So it will be from top down and bottom up. So we need to have every voice from the grassrooted, from the middle management team, from everyone. So most of the people, they will be involved into this, strategic discussion, but maybe not in the same meeting, but they will be involved in this whole process. And they are very clear that why do we make this strategic decision. And they all agree that, the KPI of the group level. So if you agree with the KPI in the group level, you have no choice.
Yeah, this is a choice you accept or not, right? Because this is like KPI as a group level, right?
Yeah. So in Alibaba, we see that in the process of the discussion, you can share, whatever kind of the opinions. But once the decision has been made, you have no rooms to Yeah, you have to follow. You have to follow, right? So so it's kind of the integrated you know, democratic way and dictation way,
Got
maybe.
it. Got it.
So
So
integrated.
yeah. So I can see very clearly here is that like the balances of like a have to and want to, right? We still like give the people autonomy like to participate this discussion, but one we rely on like and we leave this room, so we 100% like follow and have it to do.
Yes, you have to do. You have to do. And usually we will set a very, very high KPI, especially in the early development, in the early stage.
Yeah, in early stage.
Usually we will,
Got it.
usually we will, you will set a very high KPI that force you, cannot follow the traditional way of
Got
doing the
it.
business.
Yeah.
And this
So
is the second. And there are also third approaches that it's about organization change. Alibaba usually do organization change every year.
every year. Wow.
Every year.
So at
And
Alibaba, so you do like organizational change every year.
every year, especially after the strategic meeting. Once the strategy is finished, we will change the organization. And usually we will send, different people from different positions to exchange. For example, service team maybe will be sent to the operations team. And operations leaders maybe will be sent to the sales team or marketing team. So we will not allow them to stay in their comfortable position for quite a long time. Yeah, we will also not allow them to, to, to form certain kind of the habits of doing things. So we will change the organization every year. This is also the way to push them
To force
out of their
innovation.
to force innovation.
So
Yeah.
question. So just a curious question. So if you like, like that is something's really, how can I say, really this is hesitation task to do, because just imagine every year that like you have a like organizational change project. It's mean like a shake and like a shake up people and like rearrange everything. So what did you do to ensure that like people accept these as as normal things, as new like normal things, new normal at Alibaba?
That's why I mentioned value is very important. Yeah, because value is something need to be assessed every quarter. So if you refuse to change,
You may not fit with Alibaba.
yeah,
Got it. Oh wow, love it. Okay. So I have a question. So there's a lot of like Vietnamese companies. They also set up the department they call innovation department, or like a head of. Yeah.
Mhm.
So it means that like okay, so that department will be responsible for innovating the new products, the new service. So
Mhm.
at Alibaba, do you have that department, or like you have someone like who responsible for innovation? No.
No,
Oh
no,
wow. So just tell
no.
me, like what is the like secret sauce, or what is like what things that you think that people may not know much about Alibaba Group regarding to the innovation? Yeah.
So as I shared earlier, I think the first of all, innovation should be start from your strategy. So which means the first person in responsible for innovation is the CEO rather than anyone else or any department there. So it is not possible. I think it is not possible for one person or one team or one department to understand every details of your customers.
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
It's impossible. It's impossible. If someone believes this is possible, I think, it is like, I think in China, we practiced this before. Before China, before China's, open up policy, we are adopting such kind of the central government that make every plan, detailed plan, to carry out the economic development. But that was proved failed in the end. So later we choose that we believe in the market. We believe that everyone in the market, they will respond correctly, right? So I think that this is first, whether you believe that there will be someone who can understand everything, every details of this company.
I don't believe it either. So.
If the answer is no, if the answer is no, so I think it is impossible for one team who is responsible for innovation can do real innovations in the company. So what we believe is innovation, first of all, it comes from the strategy. The second is the innovation must emerge from everyone's daily job. So which means you just need to encourage the innovation, to every employees in this company rather than setting up a team or a department for doing the innovation. Yeah. I think the reason for people to resist or against the innovation is they will get punished if they do something wrong.
Survival mode.
If they do, survival mode. So I think, in a company that you need to create certain kind of the culture that you can tolerate making mistakes.
So, Chandee, so in your experience, especially like you have a work and interacted with like a multi-culture, multi-country, even like in like Alibaba Group as an Alibaba team member. So, what's like from your observation? So, what is the most like obstacle, like what is the most like difficulties for like for the organization or for the leaders like to implement or like the innovation idea or the innovation projects like at the companies, and like how like with your in your experience, like how we can like, overcome and how we can handle that.
Do you mean that how we implement this kind of the innovation culture in a
innovation culture or like even in innovation project? Just for example, like currently everyone talk about AI, right? And everyone knows that okay, this is they all understand why this is this is really necessary, like to have their job to make them be in more productivity. However, like still there is a lot of resistance. But like in your experience, like what kind of the resistance or what kind of the difficulty, something really against the innovation or project or innovation idea, just like AI.
Understand.
Yeah, and how like Alibaba team like handle this. I understand that like you have you integrate it into culture, people, but like just specific like for AI, how can you ensure that people not resist but willing to adopt, willing to embrace?
I think the reason for people to resist or against the innovation is they will get punished if they do something wrong.
Survival mode.
If they do, survival mode. So I think, in a company that you need to create certain kind of the culture that you can tolerate making mistakes.
Tolerate making mistakes. Yeah.
Tolerate making mistakes. Yeah. But of course, it is not saying that you can make what kind of the mistakes. Yeah. So as I just mentioned that, in Alibaba, if we can tolerate that you make mistakes that to improve the customer values, but maybe the business model maybe proved wrong, but we cannot tolerate that you make mistake that harm the customer values or customer experiences. This is the first thing. This is very important. So I think once the everyone actually inside their heart, I think everyone, every employees, ordinary people, they would like to do something different. It is, they don't want to their job or their work become something very routine that every day they just repeat. I think most of the people, especially the high level talents, they are more willing to do something different. So this is the first thing. And what you need to do is just to create certain kind of the environment or culture that can tolerate making mistakes. If they are not blamed for making mistakes, or if they are not punished for making mistakes, people will be more tend to do the innovation.
Got it. So you mean like the most of the resistance come from that they have a fear that like they're gonna be punished,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So
So for example, some of the companies, the CEO say we need to do innovation, or we need innovation is very important for us. But as in their KPI, if the employees do something wrong, they will get punished, right? It is impossible to have any kind of innovation.
Yeah. Anything else, Chandee? So okay, beside that, like we create the psychology safety, like in my words, that like the people have like people has a space like to try new thing and to fail, like to fail, right? But anything else that like at the Alibaba that like you have a witness so far that you guys have done like to ensure that everyone adopting and embracing the AI?
I think embracing AI, first of all, this is top down strategy. This is first of all, this is top down strategy, so that we have a lot of kind of the ways and approaches to force every employee to use AI, to embrace AI, and everyone in this organization will see that where the resources are currently. Most of the resources, most of the bonus, they are they are shifted from the traditional e-commerce businesses to AI businesses. People will follow. Everyone here is very smart. They know that what is the thing that companies want. So this is the first thing. You have to create certain kind of the power to lead people to move towards for that direction. This is first. And the second is, you need to, I think you need to persuade people not to be afraid of AI. Why today, many of the people, they resist the AI because they are very afraid of that they will be replaced by AI. Right?
Yeah,
They
they
will be
lose
replaced by.
they lose job because AI.
Yeah, they lose job, and they're afraid of that. Their experiences will be instilled by AI, right? So I think this is very important. You need to create certain kind of the culture, say, of to provide the sense of security for everyone. The most important, you cannot fire people because that you believe AI can do more, can do better. You cannot do that, because once you start firing people and replace people by AI, people will refuse. people will refuse. This is human nature. Everyone, I think 99% of the populations in this world, they don't want to be replaced by AI, right? So I think that's the second thing. And the third one is that encourage people to use AI. So in Alibaba, we offer free tokens for every ordinary employees. And also this kind of the AI innovation has been already integrated into everyone's KPI. For example, this is mandatory that every employee in Alibaba should have at least one KPI about AI. And also we are required to, for example, traditionally we're required to improve our business performance, right? This is quite normal. But currently we are required to declare that how much of our business's performance are improved because of AI. So we need to declare that in our KPI.
Got it. Yeah.
If no, it will not be considered as a good business performance.
Okay, so we are talking about the innovation, but I want to have several questions regarding to that topic. So, what kind of the competency or capability as a human being that you think that we should repair or we should to ourselves to ensure that we can maximize the power of AI?
I think currently everyone knows AI is very good at execution, right? Once you have an idea that AI can help you to execute and deliver the result as quickly as possible, right? And we believe that such kind of the capabilities will be enhanced in the future, in the very not too distant future. But in the end, as human beings, we believe there is something that will not or never be replaced by AI. One is taste, judgment,
Yeah.
Judgment, responsibility.
Okay.
Responsibility. So what does it mean? It means that every ordinary employees need to be equipped with certain kind of the entrepreneurship mindset in the future. They should not be only considered as someone, the most of the employees, they're coming out of the industrial age, right? Because we have a big factory and people are sent to the factory and work as a machine there.
Follow
right?
exactly the process.
Follow exactly the process. They don't need to think too much. They just need to carry things out. But in this AI age, everyone in this company, they need to have the capabilities of taste. They need to have the capabilities of making the judgment.
Making judgment.
When AI make the judgment, because once AI deliver a result, it still requires human beings to make the judgment.
To make a judgment.
Right?
Yeah. You're right. Yeah.
So, and also, the most important is AI cannot take the responsibility. This is very, very important. Why is that? If you have used a lot of AIs, you can tell that AI always follow us. Sometimes they will argue with us, but they always follow us, follow our judgment, follow our orders, right? So AI can deliver the result very quickly, but AI cannot take the responsibility. Means, once you figure out certain kind of the businesses don't make money tomorrow, next year, whether you have this kind of the determination to make the decision that I should still persist doing such kind of the businesses for the next 3 to 5 years. Because you as a leader or you as the human beings, you can say that okay, let's do it. If there is anything wrong, I will take the responsibility.
Yeah, but AI will not.
AI will not, right? So this is something that I think will differentiate human beings with AI in the future. And but currently there are some dilemmas because we all know that judgment is very important currently and will become more and more important. But we see that many of the junior job currently AI is doing better. But let's say where this capability of judgment come from. It comes from practices. It comes from making mistakes.
Yeah.
It comes from
Try
review
new
and
things,
reflection.
right?
Try new things.
Yeah.
But
You're right.
if you let the AI to replace most of the junior jobs, which means the next generation, they will have no opportunities to build their capabilities of judgment.
You're right.
This is a very huge risk for the companies in the future.
So again, it starts from the human, the people, and also how as a human being or as a people what can we do differently, right? So instead of now blaming AI or yeah, because you just share AI will not replace people, but AI will replace the people who cannot learn, who cannot who still not be the entrepreneurs or who still rely on too much on the outside instead of learning, continuous learning from the inside, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's great. Thank you so much, Chandee. I think that the last question, so for this conversation. So now I understand that Alibaba now working as across the country in the world, Southeast Asia, Africa, so and even in Vietnam. So from your observation, so if you have an opportunity to share with the Vietnamese leader, 3 things that they can start taking action immediately, to have to build up the innovation culture, or maybe that to start innovating the design, starting the innovating service or products. So what can they do?
I think first of all, you need to come out with a very clear idea. What is innovation? What does this innovation mean to your businesses? Yeah, innovation means different to different businesses, to different companies.
Different
you need
stage,
to come out
right?
with different stage. You need to discuss as clear as possible in your company about this. You should not just empty talking that I want innovation, because this is the starting point for you to carry out innovation and make it into mechanism in your company. And second is to make it as clear as possible what is the customer value to your businesses, right? This is very important because this will become, I think, the guideline for carrying out innovation in your businesses, and as the employees, that they will know that what is good innovation and what is bad innovation, what they can do, and because innovation sometimes means make mistakes, as I just mentioned, right?
Yes, it means
so
change.
Once they make, so you need to control this mistake is within a certain kind of the zone that you can accept. That's why the customer value, making clear of the customer value is very, very important.
Yeah, customer value. Yeah. What's the value that we can bring to the customer? Yeah,
what's the value you can bring to the customer? And third one, start rebuilding your corporate value. this is the thing. Corporate value is different from the customer value.
Yeah. Start building
yeah.
the corporate values.
Start rebuilding the corporate
Rebuilding
value.
the corporate value. Got it.
Yeah, because this is the seed that you can plant into your every employees. Yeah. And maybe if there is fourth thing, maybe you can, I think, for most of the companies, if you want to push yourself to carry out innovation, maybe you can reconsider about your innovation department, whether they need to be there. Okay.
Yeah, that's great. So understand what's the innovation, understand the customer values, what value that we can bring to the customer, start building the corporate values of behavior and make it very clear to everyone, right? Yeah. Okay, that's great. Thank you so much, Chandee. And I think that your sharing maybe that a little bit short for this episodes. However, we really look forward to welcoming you to Vietnam and sharing more practical experience, the real story from Alibaba and what you have done at Alibaba and the Alibaba team. And I think that is really valuable for the Vietnamese leaders and Vietnamese company as well. Thank you so much for spending time with us.
Thank you.
So there was practical insight and real story from Chandee on how leaders at global corporation like Alibaba Group support and empower their people to drive corporate innovation. And if you enjoyed today's episode, so please support us by subscribing to the Vietsuccess YouTube channel. You can also listen to this conversation on platforms like Spotify and Apple Podcasts. Don't forget to join our Zalo group to engage in multidimensional discussion on our podcast topics and sign up for our newsletters to receive the latest updates every Thursday morning. Thank you, goodbye, and see you next time.